While the Kremlin talks about stability and the return to greatness, the reality is much darker. An impoverished population, soaring prices, empty refrigerators, and increasing poverty in Russia. All this is the direct price of Putin's protracted military adventure. And Russians are paying for the war in potato lines, experts say. As Reuters writes, it is pensioners and the poor who have become the main victims of Russia's protracted invasion of Ukraine. Real pensions are falling, prices are rising, and the authorities are reporting income growth. But these figures hide a cruel truth. A third of Russians, tens of millions of people, are already living below the poverty line, barely making ends meet. The products that an elderly person's diet is based on are becoming more expensive every month. Potatoes are up 60%. Beets, carrots, cabbage, onions are up 40 to 70% since the beginning of the year. At the same time, pensions are indexed more slowly than inflation, and real incomes feel like they are falling. According to the Center for Macroeconomic Analysis, CMASF, the real size of pensions, if calculated according to the so-called inflation for the poor, has decreased by 6% over the year, despite the official increase from Rosstat of 1.1%. But Rosstat is showing an increase in income, and behind the scenes, every fifth family has lost out in the new economy. Almost two-thirds of Russians have no savings, meaning that if they lose their job tomorrow, they will have nothing to pay for food and utilities. Price tags change every week, says 70-year-old Larisa from Moscow. The same idea is heard from everyone. People have fixed incomes and prices behave like a stock exchange, only not on the growth of capital, but on the zeroing of human dignity. The Central Russian Bank admits that the poor feel inflation twice as much. The head of the central bank, Elvira Nabiullina, admitted in June that our people do not buy TVs every day. They buy food, which means they feel the crisis differently. The expected inflation for the poor is 14 to 17%. The official target is 4%. The gap is not just in percentages, it is in destinies. The main conclusion that is becoming increasingly obvious is that Russia has entered a regime of military redirection of resources. Everything that used to go to pensions, subsidies, food, transport is now going to the defense industry. Prices are rising because there is less food in warehouses and more ammunition. Today, Putin is not only a foreign policy isolator, but also an economic collapse for his own people. Russia is once again turning into a country with rationing inflation and inflation for the poor. Only now all this is not under the heading "the shame of the 90s," but under the tales of imperial revival. Now, with this trend, a food riot in Russia is not ruled out. People are more interested in the war in Ukraine. They are demanding bread from President Vladimir Putin.
The Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, has detained a Russian agent accused of plotting series of terrorist attacks in the country. In a post on Telegram app, the counterintelligence service revealed on Thursday that it detained a 19-year-old Kiev resident accused of planning terrorist attacks in northern Ukraine, including a failed bomb attack targeting a National Guard soldier in capital Kyiv. The Security Service of Ukraine revealed that Russian special services got in touch with the suspect via Telegram channels offering him easy money. In exchange, the suspect was instructed to assemble explosives. Upon the instructions from his Russian handlers, the suspect hid an improvised explosive device in the storage compartment of a bicycle that he placed near a pre-arranged meeting point. Later, a soldier of Ukraine's National Guard was lured to the location under the guise of a date arranged via a messaging app. Upon the soldier's arrival, the explosive device was detonated remotely, however, no one was injured. After the failed attempt, the suspect was sent to yet another operation in Pryluki in the Chernihiv region. The suspect was then instructed by the Russian handlers to burn a military vehicle, however, was detained by law enforcement officers before carrying out this task. During the arrest, law enforcers found components for making explosives and a mobile phone containing evidence of the communication between the suspect and the Russian intelligence. The suspect is charged under Ukrainian Criminal Code's Article 258 for committing a terrorist act. If convicted, the man will face a prison term of up to 12 years. The operation to detain the suspect was carried out by the SBU, the National Police, jointly with Kiev City Prosecutor's Office. The Russian Federation is intensifying its offensive in the Pokrovsk direction. Heavy fighting continues, and defenders are holding back the enemy, according to the operational strategic group Khortytsia. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian troops have intensified the offensive in the areas of Ruzhin Yar, Poltavka, Popov Yar, Razin, Volodymyrivka, Yelizavetivka, and Malinivka. The enemy also attempted to push Ukrainian defenders out of positions near Myrolubivka, Sukhii Yar, Lisivka, Yudakny, Novomykolivka, and Oleksivka. Russian troops are attempting to utilize their numerical advantage and launch an offensive, but the armed forces of Ukraine are mounting fierce resistance. It is also reported that in the Novopavlivka direction, assault groups of the invaders attacked in the areas of Vasil, Zaporizhia, Komar, Vilmpol, Shevchenko, and Zeleny High. Units of the defense forces are actively countering the superior enemy forces, inflicting significant losses and reducing the potential of their offensive actions. The situation remains tense, and hostilities are ongoing. Ukrainian troops are holding their positions. Unable to break into the agglomeration of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, the Russian occupiers are trying to bypass it from the east. If you look at the map of military operations, it is clear that the enemy does not plan to attack Pokrovsk itself. The commander of the UAV crew of a separate detachment of unmanned systems, Typhoon, with the call sign, Skiff, told Channel 24 about this, explaining that such an offensive would lead to huge losses. Russia understands this. Overall, the situation is difficult, but the Ukrainian military continues to destroy the enemy. The occupiers' offensive actions lead to an increase in their losses. In total, since March 2025, this direction has been one of the hottest. About half or a third of all offensive actions take place there. The occupiers want to bypass the city from the east and west. So far, the enemy has managed to create the largest salient in the eastern direction. This threatens the logistics that lead to Pokrovsk, the military man added. Logistics is one of the key elements of the introduction of military operations. Pokrovsk is definitely beyond the enemy's reach, but at the same time, this requires large supplies from the Ukrainian armed forces via the main logistics routes. The enemy is approaching them, which creates a certain danger for logistics. For this, the enemy uses long-range drones, in particular the Molniya and FPV drone. But we cannot talk about total control over logistics. Logistic routes are covered with nets that create obstacles for the enemy, the UAV crew commander said.